Let's just start with a really powerful idea. You are not trapped by your feelings. Seriously. Today, we're going to dive into a framework that shows you how to move from being controlled by your emotions to being in a real conversation with them.
You know that feeling? Like you're stuck on a hamster wheel with certain emotions? Maybe it's that spike of anxiety that always hits before a big meeting, or that same old wave of frustration you feel in a specific argument. You react the same way every time, and, surprise, you get the same result.
And here's the thing, that is a completely normal human experience. We all have these kinds of pre-programmed responses. When we feel stress or joy or pressure, our brains love to take a shortcut, and they just run a script we've already run 1,000 times before.
Okay, so there's actually a technical name for this. It's called cognitive emotional coupling. It sounds kind of fancy, but the idea is actually super simple. An emotion pops up, right? And instantly, without us even thinking about it, we pair it with a story about what it means and a pattern for how we're going to deal with it. So you might be wondering, where do these automatic pairings even come from? Well, they're usually shaped by three big things. Our upbringing, what we saw growing up, our past experiences, and then eventually they get baked right into our identity. We start saying things like, oh, I'm just an anxious person. It becomes part of who we think we are.
But what if I told you the emotion itself isn't actually the problem? We're about to pull back the curtain and see the real force that's pulling the strings behind our reactions. And getting this, well, it's a total game changer.
And here it is. This is the absolute core idea of this whole explainer. It's not the fear or the joy or the anger that's in the driver's seat. It's the pre-existing relationship you have with that feeling that's really steering the car.
Think of that hidden relationship like the engine running those emotional loops we were just talking about. The feeling itself is just the spark, But that relationship, that's the powerful, often invisible engine that dictates exactly where we go next.
So how in the world do we see this invisible engine? Well, that's where a tool called the AFERR Model comes in. It's an acronym for activation, forecasting, experimentation, realization, and reflection. Just think of it like a map, a blueprint that makes this entire hidden process totally visible. Okay, so let's start breaking this cycle down, starting with the F, forecasting. This is where we can see exactly how our past experiences with an emotion basically dictate what we believe is going to happen next.
Now here's the crucial part. When an emotion gets activated in us, our brain doesn't just make a cool, logical prediction about the future. Nope. Instead, it makes an emotionally biased projection that's based almost entirely on our past relationship with that feeling.
Let's make this real with a few examples. So let's say your relationship with fear is filtered through a lens of scarcity. Your automatic forecast becomes, how do I protect myself? How do I prevent loss? Or if you experience joy, but also through that scarcity lens, your brain might forecast, oh, this won't last. I've got to hold on to it super tight. Man, this quote it absolutely nails it. We think we're looking ahead and predicting what's coming, but most of the time we're really just hitting replay on an old emotional movie and projecting it onto the screen of our future. So, once that forecast is locked in our minds, what happens? We don't just sit there. We almost immediately, totally automatically, run an experiment that's designed to prove our forecast was right all along. And you can see the direct connection here, right? If you forecast that your joy is fragile, your experiment might be to cling to it or try to control everything or overplan. If you forecast that discomfort is a threat, you might experiment with deflecting it with jokes or just disengaging completely. These aren't conscious choices. They're pattern-driven reactions. And this brings us to the next really critical stage, realization. This is the moment where these patterns start to harden, where they get locked in. This is when they move from something we do to something we think we are. So here's the tricky part. After we run our little experiment, the realization, or the conclusion we draw, is also biased. We unconsciously scan the situation for any little piece of evidence that confirms our original forecast was correct, and we totally ignore anything that contradicts it.
This is such a crucial insight. When this whole cycle just runs on autopilot, we don't actually learn anything new, like, hey, maybe that approach didn't work. Instead, we learn things like, see, I was right, joy is untrustworthy, or this just proves I can't handle discomfort. These realizations don't teach us, they build the cage of our identity.
But, and this is a huge but, it does not have to be this way. This is where we get our power back. The final step of the model, reflection, is all about consciously rewriting that relationship. It's about moving from a default program to an intentional design. Just take a look at this comparison for the emotion of fear. The default relationship says, fear means danger, so I have to escape.
But an expanded, rewritten relationship might say, what if this fear is also pointing to something that's really important to me? What if I could get curious about it instead of just running away?
And that is the whole point. The goal of using a model like AFERR isn't to stop feeling fear or sadness or even anxiety. The goal is to expand your menu of possible responses. It's about having more than just one default reaction available to you when that feeling shows up.
So, if you take one thing away from all of this today, let it be this. The prison isn't the emotion itself. The prison is the automatic, unexamined, default relationship we have with that emotion. And the best news of all? You hold the key to that prison.
By making these hidden relationships visible, we get to choose again. We can move from just reacting to actually responding. So the question I really want to leave you with is this. When you look at your own life, what is the one emotional relationship that you'll choose to start rewriting first?